just kind of an old-fashioned vlog, I guess. Um, Guess they still do that on YouTube. YouTube seems to have become more commercialized, more about like a big TV station, I guess, not so much about personal connections. Um, I've watched the first three episodes of the new Reacher series. Awesome, as usual. I remember when the first Reacher series came out, and I thought, oh gosh, here we go again. Somebody trying to do Lee Child's books, you know, in a way. And the first one I remembered was, the movie that was made, and just wasn't, just didn't get it for me. And I remember watching the first episode and thinking, oh my gosh, this is Reacher. This is Lee Child's Reacher come to life. This is him. This is it. I don't know where they found this guy, but this is it. And just a plug for the show. Amazing. If you're a Reacher fan, Lee Child Reacher fan, and I've read all the books, you'll love this series. It's great. I um I subscribe to several, I guess you would call them hardcore MAGA supporters, Trump supporters, I was trying to understand the perspective of people who would support Donald Trump from the perspective of someone who's watched him since he came down the escalator. And I thought at the time, wow, this guy's amazing in terms of manipulating. I mean, if you watch the way he treated people in his initial campaigns with calling out the little guy and making them feel special, you know, the way kind of a cult leader would do. And all of the things that came out about him that in in my lifetime would have completely ended a politician's career in a heartbeat and had absolutely no impact on him. I don't know how many times I've seen the banner on a video. Trump is finished for sure now. I've seen those for about 6 years. I've also seen the videos on polls, and I would warn you, do not, in any way, shape, or form, believe any of the polls that you see on TV. They're not accurate. No one reports accurately what they're feeling or thinking these days. Certainly not to a stranger. Um, so just realize that polls are useless. They are not going to be any value to you in this upcoming election, if it even happens. I'd be surprised if we have an election. If we do, it'll be one of those long drawn out contested things. And no, they didn't really win because there was overthrow. Um, so I was trying to understand, is there a place where I could have a conversation with someone that's a really strong Trump supporter and try and understand after everything that we've seen and heard and everything that he said and done, how people could still support him and how people could in any way think that he's telling the truth about anything. When we have seen so many times that the truth has been just mangled. And um, so that was my goal. But after watching some of these people and watching their videos, I realized like we have a real problem in this country. People are so polarized and so angry with them that they don't want to talk anymore. They don't want to have a conversation. And they're absolutely convinced that what they are hearing in their news feed, their news source of information, is the absolute God's honest truth. And that all of these other news feeds are completely wrong, completely false, fake news. So I don't know how you combat. Um, I remember I was watching a video of a Trump supporter. He's on YouTube, had about 1,500 subscribers. So, just a small group of people that supported his views. Two guys, and they were doing a live video the night that Trump did his speech on voter fraud, election. And if you watch that speech, you realize that there was nothing said in that speech of any substance. There was a bunch of rehashed information that was from everything that I've seen. I mean, when you look at 60 plus court cases that were all thrown out or overturned because there was no significant, substantial, impactful voter fraud in that election. And yet, there is I guess it's half the population that voted for Trump, still believe that our elections are totally rigged, totally. They have no faith in the process, and that's scary because that's a basic requirement for a country or a group of people to function as a state, as a union, as a country, to have faith in some of your federal agencies. I remember one of the things that used to shock me is how Trump would undermine all of the federal agencies. Well, it wasn't surprising because, the GOP, the Republican Party that I remember, was really against big government, very, very skeptical of anything the government had to say. Um, very critical of anything the government was doing. And it's been such a weird thing to watch that party fall in line with a government agenda mandate that, I mean, just completely wrong stuff. It puts people like myself in an extremely difficult place because I'm an independent. I decided years ago that neither party was really serving the country in the way that they should be serving the country. The Congress and the Senate had become totally ineffectual, just impossible. in terms of getting anything done. And that's kind of sad. We can want those people to be there. But you know, it's our fault. We sent people to Washington. We started to get really angry. And so we sent people to Washington. They said, look, I don't care what you do. Don't let the other side win. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you have to do. Don't let the other side win. And so what did that turn into? Well, it turned into a 100% total ribbon because compromise was out of the question. If I'm a Democrat and a Republican came up with a really good idea for the country, I can't support it because it's a Republican. If I'm a Republican and a Democrat came up with a really good idea for the country, I can't support that because it's a Democrat. And so it just ground to a halt. The whole system ground to a halt. It's kind of our fault. You know, we sent people and told them, don't compromise. Well, we're not getting any compromise. And so that's caused quite a gridlock in our system. And now it's become just really an angry, ugly kind of situation. Uh, I have a tendency when anyone starts a sentence, well, they are all like whatever they're going to say. As soon as they make a statement like that, I'm already skeptical. I'm already pretty much discounting what they have to say because whoever they are, a race, a creed, a color, a party, a country, it's comprised of individuals who have their own thoughts and their own thinking about what's right and what's wrong. I lost my life. And that's dangerous when you start putting people in category, start labeling them. Because the other thing the one thing that othering does is it allows you to treat them as less than whoever you are, whoever us is, right? So if you demonize the other party, then of course my party is the best. If you demonize another country, then my country is the best. Um, and there's a big difference between patriotism and nationalism. There's a real danger and the kind of patriotism that is tied to nationalism, that is tied to complete and utter obedience and alignment with the government. Because we know the government is comprised of people. People are not always good, and they don't always have the best interests of everybody. Often they're out for their own money, for their own power, for their own influence. And so true patriot would be someone, and this is what the GOP used to be. They would call out government. They would screw them up, making mistakes. And they would be the first one there to say, no, that's not right. And so for me as an independent, it's made it nearly impossible in a voting situation because we have a two-party system. We have Republicans and we have Democrats. Independents haven't really risen to the point where you can really vote for an independent. Maybe at some local elections you could. So what I've discovered is when I'm looking at a ballot and I look at the different candidates and I look at the Republicans and I look at the Democrats and I think, well, I don't really like what I'm seeing. Well, you know, this Republican candidate, he's kind of moderate or she's kind of moderate. I like what she's saying. But oh, she's she's a Trump supporter, which means that she has no will of her own. She won't she won't carry through on any of these thoughts that she has. She will do whatever the administration tells her. I mean, we've seen it. The one thing that the Republicans have been very successful with is being in lockstep with each other, right, wrong, or different, totally in lockstep. And so people get upset with the Democrats, especially lately. I mean, they try and throw all kinds of labels out there, communist, socialist. Making some videos about that, which no one will ever watch. But I mean, there are differences between socialists and communists. Do we have communists in this country? Yeah, I'm sure. Do we have fascists? I'm very sure. Do we have socialists? Yeah. Is that a bad thing? I don't really know. Because I look around the world and I see some countries that have adopted some somewhat socialist um, mindsets, and they seem to be making it work. And again, I made a video which talked about what do you feel in your heart? What do you feel in your heart that's right or wrong? And I think somehow we need to get back to that point where we have a discernment, a real discernment using our heart, and not our rah rah nationalism, patriotic. And now we've tied Christianity with nationalism. However, that happened, um, which is understandable. I mean, it happened in Jesus' time, right? All the zealots. They wanted Jesus to be the Messiah with the flaming sword and the chariots to overthrow the Romans, make Israel great again. His message was entirely different. It's not that at all. So I guess I'm kind of at a point where I don't know how to have a conversation with some of the MAGA people and some of the Trump supporters, because some of the basic truths and realities are very skewed and very odd. Um, and I can understand it. I mean, I read a book. Oh gosh, it's been a couple of years ago now, but it was a book about a society where our society had gotten to the point where the only thing that uh, we got all this information, all this news was coming into us at such an incredible pace that we actually had to people who had money would hire to to what's the word I'm looking for? Censor, um, categorize their news feeds so that they would get information that was felt to be or thought to be somewhat truthful or more truthful than just the really bizarre conspiracy crazy stuff that goes around the world at 1,000 miles an hour. But people who had no money, they would get whatever information they got. And because the algorithms were written, this is really scary because it's pretty predictable. The algorithms that were written would keep feeding them the same type of information. So their truths became whatever information they were getting. And since they weren't listening to anything else, that was their truth. And it was a really screwed up dystopian world. And I'm seeing parts of that becoming true now. So I'm not sure how to even have a conversation because if I wanted to talk about abortion or immigration or economics or jobs or AI and its impact, uh, wealth inequality, which is becoming a really big problem. You know, the times that wealth inequality has become a real issue in a country, they've generally solved that problem through some kind of revolution. You know, I mean, if you look back through history, that's where a lot of revolutions started. These people have way too much money in common. We have none, and it's not sustained. So, this is another one of my long ranking videos that no one will watch, but you know, sometimes it's good to just get that stuff off your chest. Um, I've been watching a lot of personal videos on YouTube. There are still some people that are making, you know, videos about their everyday lives, even though even though there seems to be a sense in the world today that things are just right, that people are not right, that people have kind of given up. They're not engaged anymore. They're not engaged with their fellow man. They're not engaged with the people around them. They're not engaged with politics. They're not engaged with society, community. Um, and that's kind of scary to see that fall apart because I think community and the human interaction is really important. You know, they have that big long study. It's a Harvard study. It was Harvard. But this study has been going on for like, I don't know, 9 years. They've had like 4 directors of this study. And basically the study was what with my time lights to come. You know, what makes you happy? What really provides happiness? And so they've done all of these surveys and questionnaires and followed people from early in their life until late, late in their life, till their deathbed. And all manner with money, without money, status, without status, with power, without power. And always, the answer comes down to people that are the happiest and live the longest are those that have the closest, most meaningful relationships. It's all about relationships. And that's fallen apart in our world today. So anyway, I thought I'd do a quick video about that. Like my birdies in the back. That's a picture I took at the coffee shop where my mommy bird is. But anyway, just thought I'd have a conversation with everybody's watching. And I've made some comments on some friends' videos from a long, long time ago. It's been a while since I made videos. But yeah, I'm kind of in a retired status, I guess we would call it these days. Actively involved in the church, doing church stuff. Just kind of living. You guys have a great day.